I think it's important to show people how the first peoples lived. In order to learn these things, this stuff, you have to go out on the land. And I think reconnecting people with the land is good for everybody. It's really important to protect the few remaining wilderness areas that are left.
I have always been attracted to places with a rich culture and history, where few people have set foot and where wildlife is still abundant and wild. Newfoundland and Labrador are exactly that for me. And here I am following the footsteps of a hero of mine, Lee Wulff, who in 1936 wrote the famous line, "Game fish are too valuable to be caught only once." I'm Fred Campbell, and as a fly fisherman and videographer, I have always been inspired by the stories and films of Lee Wulff's adventures in Newfoundland. Why did he come here, and who came here before? To find the answers, I'm headed to Portland Creek at Mountain Waters Resort to meet with Les and Ryan Wentzell. I am also honored to meet with Keith Payne to learn more about the land and its Indigenous heritage. Welcome to my adventure, following the footsteps of Lee Wulff.
Lee Wulff, of course, he was a avid fisherman. He flew a small float plane, flew from New York to Bombay, Newfoundland. And he had some sponsorship from the Newfoundland government to promote tourism.
Lee Wulff is flying us into some fantastic fishing, some of the wildest country you'll ever want to go over. How long have you been bush flying in here to Labrador?
Well, since 1953, when I started in Newfoundland in 47, I like it down here.
Also, he advocated catch and release of the fish, even back in the 40s. And he tried to educate everybody.
Removing the fly from the salmon's jaw, Lee sets the gallant fish free. And a true conservationist makes a worthy contribution to the salmon fishing of the future. In 1989, myself, my wife, and two more couples decided we would like to buy the property at Mountain Waters. The land itself was a property that Lee Wulff, back in the 40s, developed. He used to bring Americans, he'd land them in the DC-3 plane.
And of course, the property is deep roots dating all the way back to the 1940s.
Mountain Waters Resort is very family owned. Our son owns it, him and his wife, and we're backing him 100%.
2019, myself and my wife took it over from my parents. When I come here now and I see my son at 14, it brings back a lot of memories for me, good memories, and he's extremely interested in it. So just excited to see where we can take it and grow it over these coming years, in particular with the salmon fishing. I mean, who wouldn't want to be here? It's just so blessed and so thankful to have the opportunity to be able to do it.
I'm standing here exactly in the same place where Lee Wulff built his camp back in the 1940s. So I can already feel it. This place has a lot of stories to tell, and I'm exploring with Les today, who knows this place like the back of his hand.
Newfoundland is a fantastic place to come for fishing. Well, you get the Atlantic salmon, you get sea run trout, you get brook trout. In the wintertime we get smelts, and we also get trout through the ice.
Trying to find some Atlantic salmon. The water's high, but I still believe in it. The perfect time of year, so maybe we'll have to adapt, but I'm with the right guy. Les definitely knows this spot.
The salmon is coming up, they come every year as far as they want to go as a fish. They go different places because they were born in different places. Just like right here. You got the right water, the right flow, the pebbles in the bottom. That's what they need, right? They come home.
I couldn't believe I was actually here, casting a line in the same waters as Lee Wulff. My line went tight and I captured my first Atlantic salmon of the trip. A great way to start the day and continue my journey into learning more about where I was and why Lee Wulff and the Indigenous people came here.
I'll quote a guest we had, and we used this quote on our website. Newfoundland is kind of a mystery province. There's so many activities to do here, so much scenery.
Newfoundland is known to be a really wild area, and this speaks for itself. Look at this cliff.
If you look at the formation, it looks like an Indian head.
Is this a sign of a greater spirit watching over the land, keeping an eye on us, so we can protect it and act as good stewards of the land?
Lee Wulff, when he came to Mountain Waters, he brought in Americans, and all the local people was in the river fishing too. So there was going to be a little bit of controversy, not enough room. So he went and he hired on all the local people and had them guide. So they guided the Americans, and he paid them pretty good money. Newfoundland is made up of a lot of different cultures.
I'm a member of Halibut First Nation. So yeah, we have Indigenous heritage, and my son as well.
And we're proud of it. We love it.
There's something special about here. Maybe it's the face carved in the rock or the salmon coming up river. But one thing I know is that I am honored to be where Lee Wulff has set foot. I feel I am following in his footsteps, doing my part in the promotion of this great place, and especially the protection and release of wild salmon. More questions come to mind. How did Lee Wulff fish?
This is the Newfoundland hitch, made by throwing 2 locking half hitches behind the head of the salmon fly, then drawing it tight.
Arthur Perry, he was Lee Wulff's first guide at Mountain Waters, and he showed him about the hitch.
Oh yeah.
What it does, it makes the fly, if you didn't put that on, that fly would just be in the water, that would not ripple. And the salmon here, Atlantic salmon here in those waters, they loved that ripple. And it was so good that Lee Wulff got itched.
Yeah.
Right? He got hitched with the hitch.
So I guess it's gonna happen to me.
I hope so. We're gonna go up here.
Half of the population, or close to half of the population of our province, is located on the east coast of the island, which leaves big playgrounds like Mountain Waters for people coming from away, and of course other spots in the province as well. Fish on.
Here we go. They're strong.
I was hitched, just like Lee Wulff, and it felt great to release the salmon and show Lee his idea had worked. Catch and release is bigger than ever now on the island.
And you know, it's a fantastic feeling to hook a fish, watch the fish jump, but if you don't have that fantastic feeling about releasing it, it's not all complete.
Yeah, you're right.
That's the way I look at it, right?
Yeah.
That makes it full circle.
I said now I can do my part, and that was the vision of one of the world's greatest explorers.
And every day for me while you're gone, until I see you again, will be an adventure.
Yeah,
right? So
sure.
we just keep doing adventures.
Yeah, for sure.
People like Brody is it's great to see that he's so interested into the fishing and the fish, and so keen on the education about it. Because there's a lot of kids right now that's not into that stuff. And you know, when you see somebody that's in this environment, that's loving the outdoors, I mean, that's fantastic. I guess we can just call him Little Junior Lee Wulff.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
That's exactly it. I've always had this great interest in the Indigenous culture, and I always want to better understand where I'm setting foot when I explore a new place. Yes, the salmon, the rivers, but also who was there before. With Les, he told me about a man he knew, Keith Payne, at the Grossmorn National Park, where he would be able to show me around and tell me more stories about why the people settled in here thousands of years ago.
Well, there are lots of poems written about Newfoundland, but the one that I remember most is one my mother used to recite. It relates to nature. Poems are made by fools like me. Only God can make a tree. I think that I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree. I do an Indigenous tour for Grossmorn Adventures called the Mi'kmaq Tour. My Indigenous ancestry is Mi'kmaq. Take people out on the land and show them the skills and the resources the first peoples that ever lived here needed in order to prosper on this land. Right? I mean, we are very recent to this area, right? So from 5,000, and maybe even more, maybe 7,000 years. The evidence that we have, the archaeological evidence, is that 5,000 years ago people came here.
Really rich, like 6,000-year-old history of Indigenous people before the European came. We have the largest maritime archaic burial ground in the world discovered. We actually do know, we're not thinking that Indigenous people was here like 6,000 to 7,000 years ago, right? And long before John Cabot discovered us. I'm a member of Halibu First Nation. I'm retired, but I worked with natural resources in Newfoundland.
There's no better way to understand the culture and learn about the land than to actually set foot on it and go to see it for ourselves. I was honored to leave with Keith on an adventure so he could show me where the Indigenous people settled in centuries ago.
The Indigenous people who were here, what brought them here?
Certainly the fishing, the same thing that attracted Lee Wulff, right? Fishing here was great. And they were the maritime archaic tradition, which meant, of course, they lived by the sea. And the other resources. A primary one was what they used for making fire, a mineral called chert.
Chert?
Yes, it was so important to them, it was almost like a currency. It was traded up and down the coast, as far away as Quebec and northern Labrador. The chert here is harder than the steel, so they would create sparks. Okay, that's good, you've got it. Now take your charcoal off. So put it down inside and blow on it. You've got it. Okay, just hold it by the base. You've now started fire. I think it's important to show people how the first peoples lived. In order to learn, you have to go out on the land. So this food, if even if you're going in the bush for a couple of weeks, this food won't spoil. So it's an important technique, not only for the flavor that people enjoy it, but it's also preserved, so it prevents food spoilage. It gives you some idea of the resourcefulness and the intelligence and the creativity of those people that lived 5, maybe 7,000 years ago here. So just imagine if you were put here and you weren't allowed to go back to the community and you had to survive here, who would be the intelligent one then?
People are starting to realize what was lost by the Indigenous people.
Yeah, everybody needs beauty. There are some beautiful buildings in the big cities, but nothing that compare to the beauty of the wilderness and the outdoors. And looking at a beautiful skyscraper, I don't think it's going to do anything for your soul.
It was an honor for me to spend some time with Keith because he knew so much about the land. More questions were answered, and my understanding of this wild place was coming together. There's a way of life here on the island that is totally connected to nature. It was now my turn to explore, to try and find the holy grail of salmon here in Newfoundland and Labrador. I had heard stories of one of the world's greatest dry fly fishing rivers where, like Lee Wulff, I could film incredible sceneries and see for myself the true abundance of Atlantic salmon in complete wilderness. Aboard a bush plane, I flew to Labrador on the Flowers River, and what happened next is probably somewhat like Lee Wulff when he landed on unfished waters decades ago.
This is Lee Wulff, your angling reporter, about to bring you the photographic story of what learning to fly my own seaplane meant in reaching the wild, untouched fishing that's so rapidly vanishing from this continent.
We just arrived upriver. There's a nice rapid here, and the salmon seem to be holding right here just before they go up this chute. One more out here. A true feeling of gratitude came to mind. With my camera and fly rod at hand, I could imagine myself following the footsteps of Lee Wulff. I couldn't believe that these places still existed. A magical river like in my dreams, where everything is still wild and intact. Another nice grills. Look at how fat they are here and how strong they are. Woo! Yes! Yes, one more. We're looking for a big one. We're gonna get it. Woo! Maybe it's my turn now to film and show these wild salmon and wild rivers to people, to make them understand how important it is to protect and preserve them.
We try to have this branch set aside as a fly only.
Whoa!
And I hope to get back to the Atlantic and back here again in the river next year to give some other fisherman this thrill and this memory.
I know Lee Wulff had the future of fly fishing at heart and especially understood wilderness could not be preserved in a farm or a zoo, but here in the wild.
Over the years, there's been a lot of learning lessons that you take from the land. We know every nook and cranny that we have here and how blessed we are to be stewards of that and look after that.
My wish for the future would be if we could, I think we need to change the education up a little bit to get some of the roots, some of the culture back into the people. That's why people come to Newfoundland. It's because what Newfoundland got, they had, but they don't have it anymore. So we still got it yet. We're hanging on. Yeah.
I love this landscape. I love the community. I love the fact that I can see the caribou, and I have a connection for the fact that I'm an Indigenous person. So I always feel a closeness and I feel an appreciation for the lands here. This is home. It's where my soul is happy.
If we look at the long term, in order for people to be worried about wilderness areas and to fight to save them, then they had to be familiar with them. They have to go there and see the beauty of it and see the necessity of it.
Keith could not say it better. To protect and preserve the wild, we need to be familiar with it, see the beauty of it and the necessity of it for ourselves. My journey ends here in Newfoundland and Labrador, a wild place that needs to stay wild, filled with stories, the ones of a rich culture, and to me, the greatest fly fisherman and outdoorsman that ever lived, Lee Wulff. I feel honored to have seen the beauty of this land. Now I can show it to the people so they can better understand it and do their part in keeping it wild. Thanks, Lee Wulff. You have inspired a whole generation of anglers to follow in your footsteps. Legends never die.